you're buying into this character that is not the real you. And the reason why I say it's not the real you is because the real you is the most authentic version of yourself. Now, when you think of authentic, right, the most realist, the truthful version of yourself, that is like your whole and complete self. It is the self that is completely connected to all that is, who is completely in abundance, who is living their life the way they want to, who is following their passions, doing what they want. But the problem with trying to do that is that if we have these limitations programmed into us, limitations as in beliefs like, well, I can't do what I want. Success is very hard. Money's super hard to make. I can't go do this thing because it's not possible, or I don't have the resources, whatever it may be. You see how these belief systems that were programmed into us from the collective conscious, we could say the collective in society. This is also in cultures. This is taught in school. Look at the media, the news are programmed into us. All these fears, these limits, these doubts. What they do is they narrow down the decisions that we can make for ourselves in our lives. And at the same time as this is happening, right? Because think of it, when you're a little kid, all you're doing is like acting on your passion. You're doing what you want. You're not overthinking, like, how am I going to pay for it? How am I going to make it work? Like, you're just like, I'm determined to go do this. I'm just going to go do it. Unless, your parents redirect you. But that's how you are, fully trusting. But then you have these programs that are programmed into you, okay, through multiple avenues, and these fears and these doubts and all these things that then become who you think you are, but it's not actually who you are. And we buy into this character, this identity, this role, and we start to play this role in life. And at the same time as this is happening, you also have the illusion of pressure in life. And I say it's an illusion because it's not actually real. But again, as a society, as a collective, this is kind of the notion of how everyone is. This is typically what happens is that you get this pressure. And this pressure is expectations of what your family and friends think you should do or what everyone else is doing in the big decisions. It's the common talk about like, okay, well, you got to go after high school, you got to go to school, typically university, get a degree of some sort, go get a job. You got to do all these things. You got to then get married. You have to have a family by this age. And if you don't do these things, it's all of this push and family and people around you have all these expectations for you. Now, mind you, usually when these people have these expectations, it's simply coming from a good spot, and that good spot is simply them wanting you to be safe. How do they know you're going to be safe? Well, if they don't have the right programming, as in trust and proper abundance, if they're coming from fear and scarcity, then what they're going to think is the safest path is the most familiar path, the path of certainty. And what the path of certainty is and most familiar is the path that everyone else is doing. Right? Well, everyone else does it, so that's most predictable. I know that you're probably going to succeed in that area. I can control that in one way or another. So that's the path I want you to go on. So you're dealing with all this, right? In a way, losing who you really are, living as this identity, this character that is not the full real you. And you're dealing with all these limits, these fears, these doubts. And then you have life coming at you. And this is what I find happens to a lot of us. This is like a crossroads moment. You have two paths. First path is you can follow your heart. Now, when I say heart, what I mean by that is like you follow your dream, your calling, your passion. You do the thing that you genuinely want to do. How you'd want to think about this, because again, we are so limited in our minds, it's hard to even think about that. But think of it like this. If everything could work out so perfect for you, everything could work out so perfect, there's no limitations whatsoever. You showed up today on this earth, what would you want to go do? What would you want to go experience? That's the thing. Now, as I even explain that, you can probably tell your mind's probably coming with ideas like, well, that's not realistic. It's not possible. How am I going to make money doing that? Limitations of the mind. You know it's a limitation because you know there's probably somebody else out there in the world doing it or doing something very similar to it. And you know it's at least probably possible if you really think big enough, but we get limited. The reason why is simply, again, this is not the safe, similar, familiar path. Think of a snowfall. Okay. And you're walking out of school, you're walking out of your workplace. Are you going to walk in the snowbank that nobody walked through, or are you going to walk on the path that everybody else is walking through? You're going to walk on the path that everybody else is walking through. It's the safest. It's already plowed down, right? The way is already made for you. That's what happens is that we neglect this heart and then we use our logic brain that is limited at this point because we have all this limited programming, which literally influences the thoughts and ideas that you can have as a whole. So it's limited to your programming. And then we play it safe. We follow the certainty. We fall in line, right? It's almost like we start to live for other people. Maybe it's your parents, your aunt, your friends, your school, whatever it may be. You kind of fall in line. I remember when I was little, like I never could decide what did I want to do in the school programs. We had to figure out the job and careers and stuff. And I would say things that I want to do, and people literally would tell me to be realistic. Teachers would tell me to actually just be realistic. What do you mean by that? So we fall into this line, right? And it's weird too, because from a young age, everyone's like, hey, do whatever you want, follow your dream, right? You're excited. And then it's like, no, the world's scary and dangerous. You can't do that. Most people fail. This is the reality, blah, 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 blah. Right? And then you fall in line. We let this fear and doubt take over rather than the faith and the heart. And then what happens is that you follow this path for years, you get more and more comfortable, you get maybe in debt, you have more bills that pile on, you get materialistic items, then you carry these limits with you still, these fears, and it's still shaping you, and you slowly can feel it in your heart closing off, almost losing that inner deep connection. And one thing you got to realize, or we should realize, is that it's not the full you. This version, this character that we're playing, that we know deep inside isn't what we actually want to do. You know, you could say, well, it's good enough. It gets me by. It's comforting. It's decent. It's okay. But that's the trap. What happens that we build an illusion of safety. Well, I got everything in order. I got my consistent job. I got all these things going. I have this illusion of safety. It could all crumble tomorrow, is what we don't understand. But against the snow path, it's like, well, everyone else followed this path, so that's why I did it. Because the path that I actually want to do, nobody does it. Barely anybody does it. I don't know if it's possible. I have no support. I have all these excuses, all these things, all these reasons to follow the safe, comfortable path. Let me ask you this. When in your life did you learn that you can't go do the things that you genuinely want? When did you learn that it's scary or you're going to fail or not succeed? Because you should realize that those are all simply just belief systems. They're not truth. They're not full truth. And anybody and everybody who's actually went out and done it, who is living that dream life, their calling, their purpose, their passion, who has the fulfillment, they would tell you the same exact thing. And the people who are not living that life, who are playing it safe and scary, will tell you the exact opposite thing. Right? So it's like they're literally just projecting what they believe to be true about themselves onto you, but it's not the full truth. And then what happens is that we are so stuck in this prison, this comfort trap, full of fear, full of doubt, despair, shame, guilt, anger, that we want to feel better. So what do? Well, some of us change. Some of us step outside of this cave, this box that we've built. What we do is usually we will numb ourselves. We will distract ourselves with other people's drama and problems, right? We will start to hate on other people. We will use our pain and put it on to everyone else. Look, I'm doing better than them, right? We'll watch the TV. We'll pick a political side. We'll get so embodied into it. We'll focus on all this hate, all this bad. Maybe we'll get into drugs, some sort of addiction, shopping addiction, gambling addiction, whatever it may be. We'll have mediocre relationships, unfulfilling ones. We'll settle for less. Find anything to be numb or to cope with this misalignment, this resistance that we can feel inside. And we try to do all these things to feel comfortable in the comfort zone. But inside the heart, you know that something is off or misaligned. Just something isn't whole and complete. And what happens is that you lose your true, authentic self. You ignore or you neglected your soul's calling. You could call it your heart's calling, your intuition, your inner path, whatever fits right for you. It's the same thing. We ignored that. We neglected that. We stopped trusting. We stopped being abundant, free, and connected. And we allowed all of these programs and these limitations to be literally programmed into us to think this is who I am, this is how life is going to be, and how it's always going to be, and this is reality. And then what happened is that your brain then found evidence for that for so many years because that's what the brain does. That's the RIS. It will literally filter out reality and hyper focus on reconfirming what you already believe to be true. So you're going to find evidence for it and evidence for it, and you're going to be so bought into this lie and this hole that it feels like it's literally impossible to get through. Now, the reason why I know this is because this was happening to me all the way up until about grade 11. I was falling into this trap and I could feel it losing my inner self. But luckily for me, I was at a point where I hated who I was. I hate my body. I was so insecure and I was living this trap and I didn't feel good inside and I had all this mind baggage. And then luckily somehow, some way, I was put on this path where I discovered the law of attraction. I discovered how you can actually change your mind and how to build confidence. And that was the first steps for me to realize that I'm not trapped and I'm not stuck as this character and that these are just characters that we play. And I'm so much more than this. I'm the observer behind the mask. The observer is the you who is pure presence. It is you who is experiencing everything for all it is, doing what you want, genuinely what you want. And when I finally realized this, I stopped taking the path that everybody else wanted me to take. You know, everybody wanted me to go do these certain things, and I stopped doing that. And I said, no, this is what I want to do. I'm going to go live my life. I'm going to go be me. I'm going to go recreate me. And I'm going to live the life I want. Crazy enough, that path allowed me to build a business that was very successful, build my body to actually live the life I genuinely wanted. And I'm still on the journey. I'm still becoming more and more of my authentic self. I'm still working through limitations, fears, all of it. But I know this because I was experiencing it and I've seen it countless times. And I really hope that this training today hit home for you in your soul and really help you realize that if you're missing that fulfillment in life, if you're lacking that purpose, if you're lacking that, if you feel like things are meaningless or it doesn't, or just in a pitful place, doesn't have to be forever. Does not have to be forever. I can promise you that. Now, how do you return home is the next question. Well, I'm going to leave this off for today. And basically, what I would like to see is that if this genuinely resonated with you, if this really hit home and you want me to dive into how to actually get back to being your real authentic self, to live the life that you actually want it, because this is the business that I'm building. This is my mission, is Dream Self, helping you become the person that you've always were meant to be. If you guys want me to dive into that, just comment more below in the comments. And if there's enough demand, I will absolutely create that training. But thank you so much for being here. I'd love to hear your feedback on what hit home most for you today. And I'll see you guys every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Make sure you subscribe. See you next time.